Okay, so markets are in a bit of a tumble right now from their highs that they've reached in recent days. And this is after Trump has announced that he's going to be putting 25% tariffs on 14 countries, including major trading partners like South Korea and Japan, since they've not been able to come to a speedy trade deal. So the Trump administration promised almost 90 days ago that they would get 90 trade deals in 90 days. And they said this very confidently. Secretary Bessent had to go out there and tell people that this was happening. Donald Trump said that this was going to be so successful. And in that time period, they haven't been able to get 10. They were able to get an extremely watered down deal with the Brits. And besides that, some tax exemptions for luxury vehicle engines and keeping some of the base tariffs in place anyway, there haven't been many other big deals that have been made. There have been some deals made with the Chinese that, again, kept many tariffs in place, and there's still the threat of the trade war re-escalating, as many of the other issues, like, for example, fentanyl trafficking that Donald Trump talked about on the campaign trail constantly, has not been addressed. We're talking about tariffs on the Canadians due to the tiny, minuscule amount of fentanyl that's come over their borders. But we're saying that we've had a successful deal with the Chinese when that still hasn't been addressed, even though, again, a big Trump campaign promise. Point is, we have not gotten the 90 deals in 90 days. We haven't gotten 25 deals in 90 days. We haven't gotten 20 deals in 90 days. We haven't gotten 15 deals in 90 days. We're nowhere close to this. So it seems that the Trump administration has changed from the approach of trying to renegotiate the fundamental trade balances of our nation with basically every other major country on earth. We have decided to doing that all at once at the same time, with largely unexperienced diplomats holding the reins in this position along the pathway. We've decided that was silly. That was ridiculous. We weren't going to get anywhere with that. So instead, we're going to get a ton of deals. We're going to get 100 deals. 100 deals. Well, if we couldn't get 90 deals in 90 days, how are we going to get 100 deals? Well, according to Secretary Bessent, according to the Treasury Secretary, what we're going to do is we're going to get a deal by sending 100 countries a letter. And in this letter, we're going to say, hey, homie, you need to pay us this rate right off the bat of either 20%, 25% in reference to these 14 countries. And if you do not come and accept our great deal that we're kind of etching, sketching into this document, then sucks to you. You'll just have to deal with this flat rate that's coming around the corner. Now, when Secretary Bessent went on to the press to say, like, hey, we're doing this, we're doing this 90 deals in 90 days, it didn't pan out exactly how we talked about, but now we can do 100 deals very quickly. The CNN journalist responded that this is not 100 deals very quickly. This is just a threat. One second. Let's see if we have that CNN interview. Here we go about this. And then we can get into some of the details.
Trump's big, beautiful bill is now law. And as he hits the road to sell Americans on that new law, the president is also facing another deadline this week. More than 100 countries have only 3 more days to meet the deadline he set.
2 more days now, 48 hours. But he's now moved the deadline to August 1st. That's the new deadline, everyone. Guys, July 4th is the unmovable July 9th, August 1st is the unmovable
to make tariff deals. Here with me now to talk about all of that is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. Let's start with the new law and who it helps. The Tax Policy Center says the majority of the tax benefits will go to Americans making $217,000 or more a year. The Yale Budget Lab says the richest Americans will see their income rise by nearly 2%. The lowest earning Americans will see their income drop by 3% when factoring in cuts to Medicaid and food stamps. You argue that the benefits will really be aimed at the middle class. How does that square?
Dana, first, let's have a look at the Yale Budget Lab, because I was looking at their findings, and this week I actually went on their website.
By the way, Secretary Bessent has claimed that the big, beautiful bill is debt neutral. Actually, it's going to be getting rid of the debt. Mind you, that almost every single other independent analysis of this bill has said that it's going to produce between $2 to over $3 trillion worth of debt in the next 10 years. And originally they were saying, hey, you know, this prediction saying that it's going to be 2.4 trillion. That's not fair. This isn't the dynamic scoring. The dynamic scoring is going to take into effect how the tax reductions are going to produce more economic activity and therefore produce more taxable income. Hasn't taken that into account. Then the dynamic scoring came out and it was $4 billion more in the hole.
Let's talk about tariffs. President Trump gave countries a 90-day pause on the sweeping tariffs he put in place back in April. That pause ends in 3 days. What happens on Wednesday?
We'll see. I'm not going to give away the playbook because we're going to be very busy over the next 72 hours. We are going to, President Trump's going to be sending letters to some of our trading partners saying that if you don't move things along, then on August 1st, you will boomerang back to your April 2nd tariff level. So I think we're going to see a lot of deals very quickly. And, you know, Dana, we're going to send out probably 100 letters to small countries where we don't have very much trade. And most of those are already at the baseline 10%.
But you said August 1st. Do you mean what's going to happen in August?
So the countries will get a letter saying that if we have not reached an agreement, then you will go back to the April 2nd level.
Starting when? On August 1st?
On August 1st.
Okay, so there's basically a new deadline.
It's not a new deadline.
How is it not a new deadline? So we're going to send out a new thing, and this new date by which we need to get it, so it's a new deadline. No, it's not a new deadline. It's just a day by which they need to complete the thing that by which we ask.
First.
Okay, so there's basically a new deadline.
It's not a new deadline. We are saying this is when it's happening. If you want to speed things up, have at it. If you want to go back to the old rate, that's your choice.
When you say that there's going to be a lot happening over the next few days and you don't want to give me the playbook, is there a playbook?
Sure. The playbook is to apply maximum pressure. We saw that the EU was very slow in coming to the table. 3 weeks ago on a Friday morning, President Trump threatened 50% tariffs, and within a few hours, 5 of the European national leaders had called him, and Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the EU, was on the phone, and the EU is making very good progress. They were off to a slow start.
The president said some countries could end up with tariffs as high as 70%. Which countries is he talking about?
I think you'd go back and look at the April 2nd levels. But again, none of those are major trading partners. There are 18 important trading relationships that account for 95% of our deficit. And those are the ones we're concentrating on. Are
you close to any deals before Wednesday? I know you're talking now about August 1st, but where are you on
we are close to several deals. As always, there's a lot of foot dragging on the other side, and so I would expect to see several big announcements over the next couple of days.
Can you name names?
I'm not going to name names because I don't want to let them off the hook.
Okay. When you talk about these letters and you talk about kind of the 90 deals in 90 days, or at least the president did back in April. So far, we've seen 3, and they're not concrete deals the way that we're used to seeing trade deals. They're frameworks. Mm-hmm. The president has a reputation, self-described deal maker. So why haven't we seen the kind of deals that he promised in the last 90 days?
Where's my deals,
Again,
Chief?
He didn't promise this, and when we send out the 100 letters to these countries, that will set their tariff rate. So we're going to have 100.
When he said 90 deals in 90 days, did you see that as a commitment to deals? He didn't promise a deal. He said he'd have 90 deals in 90 days. That's not a commitment.
Done in the next few days. And
that's not
sometimes listening to the Treasury Secretary talk, it's just like speaking another language, man.
a deal, that's a threat.
No, that's the level. That's the deal. If you want to trade with the United States, this is.
But that's not a negotiation. That's just a
yeah, that's not a deal. A deal would be, hey, we want to negotiate terms. We sit down, negotiate terms. We figure out a deal between our sides. Us saying, this is what you're going to pay. That's not a deal. That's just implementing a tariff. That's just, there's a tariff now. That's the deal. Okay, I have a deal for the American people. 5% tax on Hershey's chocolate. There's my deal. That's not a deal. It's just a tax. All you guys have done is said, hello, we're going to implement a bunch of new taxes on Americans trying to buy products. There's our deal. That's not a deal. A deal is something you negotiate.
Many of these countries never even contacted us. So that's the thing about being the deficit country, Dana, is when you are the deficit country, you have the leverage. These are surplus countries that they have exported more to us than we export to them. So we have the leverage in this situation.
You know,
I mean, not if they can export to other people, not if you need those products. Not if the companies in your own country also need those products.
When I talk to small business,
you have leverage, but to say we're with leverage, we want things that they have. We're the ones that have the leverage. Like, it's listen to yourself.
Owners, both doing interviews with them and just in and around in my life interacting with them, I have not met one who has not said it's the uncertainty with the tariffs that is making it so hard for them to do business because they're kind of frozen in place. What do you say to those business owners?
Well, I'd say two things. The other thing they would probably have been telling you is it was the uncertainty around taxes. So with the one big beautiful bill, they now have great certainty on taxes.
No, they've said tariffs.
No, but let me finish. When I'm out talking to businesses, they want trade and taxes. So we have certainty on taxes now. All businesses know that they'll be getting 100% expensing for new plant and equipment. On tariffs, again, it is the 18 important trading relationships, and we're moving through those.
Again, it's not a deal if you just implement a tax for Americans to pay. That's not a deal, and that's not going to help anybody. Who's not going to help? That's not going to help any of the people, any of the businesses that you're talking about consoling. Like, hey, we're going to put a 25% tax on these countries. So feel happy. Feel happy we passed a big, beautiful bill? Let's read about these 25% tariffs. President Donald Trump on Monday threatened tariffs between 25% and 40% on imports from 14 countries, including Japan, South Korea, Thailand, and Bangladesh, all countries that we trade significantly with, and they have a lot of surplus and exported to the United States. The first of what he said would be a series, and these are a lot of these, like for example, Thailand and Bangladesh are countries like Vietnam that we wanted cheap consumer production to be moved to, so we weren't so reliant on China. And now we can reward them with higher taxes. Okay. And the first of what he said would be a series of higher duties on the administration's continuing negotiating trade deals ahead of the August 1st deadline. In a string of near identical letters posted on Truth Social, his social media site, Trump said the United States has agreed to continue working with each country despite large trade deficits. Our relationship has been, unfortunately, far from reciprocal, he wrote, adding that the proposed tariffs are just a starting point. If for any reason you decide to raise your tariff, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by will be added to the country's import fees. The new tariffs released Monday are strikingly similar to the Liberation Day levies announced in April and would begin at 25% for Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, and Tunisia, and go as high as 40% for Myanmar, Myanmar and Laos. Meanwhile, South Africa, Bosnia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Serbia, Thailand, and Cambodia would face tariffs between 30% and 36%. You can see the specific tariffs here, with Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia, Thailand, Bangladesh, Serbia, Indonesia, Bosnia, and South Africa getting the worst of it, and South Korea and Japan being two notable mentions for the 25% tariff rate. If these tariff rates go into effect, this will mean higher costs for people buying Nissans, buying Toyotas, buying Hyundais, for people buying South Korean, Japanese, Cambodian. I don't know why you would be buying Cambodian goods. We don't buy a bunch of stuff from Cambodia, Thailand, Bangladeshi, or a lot of these goods. And again, this hurts who? This hurts them because of the possibility of less Americans buying products from these countries. And it hurts us because the ones who still have to, because it's part of their manufacturing base or they still need those goods, will have to pay a higher tax, as well as us losing out on the possible sales tax benefit. So who does this really hurt? I mean, if you try to speed up the negotiations process, fail, and then say, well, fine, I'll shoot ourselves in the foot on August 1st if you don't play ball. I mean, yeah, the blood will get on them. You might shoot them too when it comes to their ability to sell products over here, but we're just hurting each other. We're just hurting each other. And the markets reacted reciprocally. They reacted in kind.
Markets closing in the red after their worst day in almost a month. Why? Well, that came after President Trump sent a number of trading partners letters this afternoon detailing new tariff rates they will face starting August 1st if they do not reach a trade agreement with the U.S. by Wednesday or by August 1st, or who knows, that could be extended as well. We'll wait and see. Trump threatening a 25% tariff on South Korea, Japan, Malaysia, 30% on South Africa, 40% on Laos and Myanmar. Now, these letters are just the first of 14 that the president is expected to send today to trading partners. My panel is back with me. Catherine, I want to start with you as our resident Bloomberger here, so you must know all the things about all the things.
Some of the things.
What's fascinating about this is if you look at the rates that are in the letters, there may be like a percentage point to 3 at most away from the original April 2nd tariffs. So I read the letters and I thought, this is essentially just an official delay of the deadline. Am I not seeing something?
They are not that different. I mean, this whole process has been deadlines and delays and a lot of confusion. And I think that's been very hard for countries that have been trying to negotiate these deals because they don't really know what is the real deadline, what isn't. It's interesting, I think, because the president pretty effectively weaponized using a deadline with Congress to get his legislation passed. But it has turned out that deadlines with foreign leaders who have a lot of other concerns about trade and the world economy have not been quite as moved.
Especially when it's rushed so quickly. My goodness. Look, it's the same problem as before. When you talk about countries like Japan and South Korea, we're so integrated with their economy that placing this tax is going to have negative downstream effects on anybody trying to buy products from those countries, anybody who needs to take industrial inputs from the high-end manufacturing sector from those countries. And while it is going to affect the businesses that are selling goods to the United States, that also comes with detrimental negative impacts for us as well. Look, if they came to a deal, then we wouldn't be talking about these detrimental negative impacts. And just saying a 25 to 40% tariff and placing it is a deal in and of itself is a pretty pathetic cop-out. But what about Penguin Island? 100% tariff. 200% tariff, in fact. They're not going to get away with it. I promise you, they are not going to get away with it. They will not.